Okay, here we are again. Welcome back, everybody. This is the We Quit Booze Brothers, which is a podcast where we try to have honest, no fluff conversations about our various experiences of quitting alcohol. And with me, as always, is my brother Matt. Hello, Matt.
Good morning, Mark. Yes, we are here again, and we have another great subject for you. So I just have to say something now. So to all the people who listen and watch, what you don't know is when we start these things, there's a small countdown. It goes five, four, three, two, one, and in we go. And normally during that time, Mark is extending the middle finger and flicking V's at me. So it's I'm always trying not to laugh at the very beginning, but hopefully that doesn't come across. But anyway, so yeah, we keeping it real here.
Yeah, we're just pulling back the professional veil that we try to retain.
Indeed, indeed. And on that note, actually, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has left messages on our YouTube channel. Mark's really quick to respond normally, and I add to it. They really, really do help, and they mean a huge amount to us. And if we take a bit of time to reply, that's not because we don't want to. It's simply because we have day jobs and things to work through. But really, really, that keeps us going. So please keep leaving your thoughts, comments. It really does make a difference to us. And subscribe if you haven't.
Yeah, and on that, in fact, excuse me, the to sort of really underline the point, the topic that we want to talk about today was the result of a couple of comments that we got. So the feedback that we always say that this should be a community. We're in this to work through these issues together. Help each other out. That's certainly how I regard this. And so your feedback, your comments, your insights are as valuable as anything that these two idiots can come up with. So please do keep them coming. So on that, the topic for today, and this one is something that if you're on this journey, if if you're considering getting sober, or if you are currently abstaining from alcohol, it's something that will play a part. It just does. And the topic is resisting a relapse. Okay, so because it's the temptation is kind of always there, and I've just got a couple of things to say about it. The first thing I would say is relapse doesn't mean failure. It just doesn't. Relapse is if you relapse, yeah, fine, it's not great, but it doesn't mean it's the end of your sober journey. In fact, I think both. Well, no, I don't think. I know for a fact that both Matt and I, in our journey to stop drinking, we both relapsed. We tried it, we failed. We tried again. It's part of the journey. It's part of the learning exercise. So I'd sort of put that as a footnote right at the beginning. The two things I want to really point to try to help anybody listening to this resist a relapse, and help us as well. This is advice to Matt and I as much as it is to anybody else. Is the first one I would encourage you to do is to really crystallize and remember and lean into your sober identity. I do think that there is something incredible about people who don't drink. It says something about you as a person. It says you've got the discipline to do it. It says that you've been strong enough to resist alcohol. And as time goes by, it's like everything. When you first stop, it's all big news and it's all very exciting. And then the sort of shine wears off, the novelty wears off, and it becomes, excuse me, it becomes the norm. But it shouldn't do. You should always remember how incredible it is for you to not be drinking. And one example of that will be, just health. We with social media and the internet and just everything, we're bombarded with messages about nutrition, good nutrition, exercise, mental health, physical health, and all the hacks. There's all sorts of different intermittent fasting and ketosis, and there's all these sort of weird and wild approaches to health and physical and mental health. The one thing you can do beyond anything else, hands down, better than anything else, is if you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and you say to yourself, I don't drink alcohol, you're in the top 5 to 10% already of things that you can do to become a healthier and a better person. So I just remind yourself, when you're ordering a non-alcoholic drink in a restaurant because you don't drink, feel that that little moment of pride. When you wake up in the morning and you feel fresh and excited and invigorated for the day ahead, remind yourself. I've got a question for you, Matt. Have you ever woken up in the morning after a night before and thought to yourself, fucking hell, I really wish I'd drank last night? Have you ever done that?
Never. No,
No.
absolutely never. Like literally, I've never woken up and thought, "Oh my God, I wish I'd been right on the booze and the Charlie
Yeah.
last night again, and had that just near death feeling of shame and hatred. I really want that back." No.
Mm, yeah, and doesn't that just, if you think about it, that little small example, I've never woken up in the morning and thought, oh shit, I wish I'd drunk last night. But I can tell you what, I've woken up plenty of mornings after alcohol and thought, oh God, I wish I hadn't done that. I really, really wish I hadn't done that. So the just right there is your reason for don't ever forget that you will never regret not drinking, but you will very likely regret drinking. And that leads me on to my second point, and I've only got 2 points to make. The second point is alcohol, the perception of what you think alcohol brings to your life is divorced from the reality of what alcohol does. I want you to think, when you're thinking about a relapse, and look, it's not easy. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute this is a walk in the park. If it was that easy, more people would be sober. So you're doing something incredible just by trying to do it. But what I want you to think about is, if imagine if you were to have a drink. This podcast is titled Our Experience, so I'm going to share with you my experience. If I had a drink tonight, okay, I might get 20 minutes or half an hour of real enjoyment. That one or two, that first or second, you might get that buzz. That buzz that you get from alcohol where you think, actually, this is nice. I'm sort of feeling that woozy, kind of nice feeling of pleasant drunkenness or whatever it is, pleasant light alcohol buzz. That's a nice feeling. Now, if you're somebody who can have one or two drinks and that's it, and you don't need any more, and you don't do it every night, then this isn't for you, probably. Unless it's becoming habitual, it's every night. If you're just one of those, I'll have one and that's it. But for me, I would carry on. And after that first 20 minutes, half an hour, I would then be into prolonged drinking. Beyond that, and it's a confusing space that I've been there. As another sort of extreme example, I remember going to, in fact, barbecues at your house, Matt. I remember we used to come around to yours during the day. We'd get there about 1 o'clock and we would start drinking. It would get to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd almost be thinking, even as a pretty good drinker, okay, now what am I going to drink now? And you keep going, and deep down this isn't good. You aren't. It's not really enjoyable anymore. You've lost the ability to be coherent. You are repeating yourself. You're starting to feel dehydrated. You're starting to worry. Maybe for you and I was starting to think, oh, my wife's giving me that look again. I'm probably drinking. And what I'm saying to you is that the reality of what you think alcohol gives you compared to what it really gives you is just fucking not the same thing. The reality is that after about half an hour or an hour, I'd be in trouble. And then I would wake up the next morning feeling absolutely terrible about myself. Like, why on earth did I do that? So here's the reality. Here's the actual reality of alcohol. You're talking about 20 minutes to an hour of enjoyable something that you will trade for a lifetime of feeling great. That's the deal that you're going to do, you're going to make with the devil when you drink. So they're my 2 tips. Remember what your sober identity gives you, and be really, really honest about what drinking alcohol actually means. You think it's going to do something to you, you think it's going to be something that it really genuinely won't be. And the payback is, well, as we know, the payback is sort of what brought you here today to listen to this podcast. So anyway, there you go.
No,
Over.
great tips. I think, as always, these things tie nicely together. So I've got some thoughts on this, and as you said correctly, we've both been through this, and I want to start by saying, as Margaret Thatcher once said, you might have to fight a battle more than once to win it. And that's so true with sobriety, and for me, relapse happens, right? There's nothing to be ashamed of. In life in general, we don't get things right the first time. So it may take you several tries. And actually, I don't like the word relapse. I think it's too brutal. I think it's too final. I think it incites failure. So for me, I like to use the term slipping up. You know, you slip up, you make a mistake, you get it wrong. And the first time I tried to get sober, I slipped up. It was a Christmas. I've talked about this before, but I'll mention it briefly again. I had come home and I was drunk. It was inappropriate. It wasn't the right, and my wife was there, and the question started. I didn't really have the answers, and everything pointed at me, and it was absolutely right. I had a problem with alcohol, and that came to the surface. So being, and kind of sort of wanting, I was like, okay, that's it. I'll stop. I that's enough. But the reality was, I didn't really want to stop. So this is the other important point, is that when you're doing this, it has to be because you ultimately want it. Can't be your mum, your kids, your wife. It has to be down to you. It's got to be you who says, right, enough's enough. I'm fucking stopping this. So I didn't really want it the first time. I knew it was a problem. I knew it was, I knew, that I had to stop, but I wasn't ready. So I sort of did Christmas, and I say sort of did Christmas. It was through gritted teeth. I had moments of deep joy, because any period of sobriety is a good period in your life, regardless. So I got to feel and understand periods of 2 to 3 weeks, I think, without drinking, where I had times and I saw the possibilities, but I wasn't ready in my mind. And reality is, I went back and it was just as bad. And the rest is in another podcast, and we can talk about that another time. But it is difficult, right? It is tricky. There's that little voice in your mind
Mm.
that says, well, you didn't really drink that much. You've showed everyone in the world that you can stop drinking at the click of a finger, at the drop of a hat. So maybe you didn't really have a problem with it. And, you go back. I actually talk in my book about slipping up, and I talk about the fantasy of slipping up, because you do fantasize, that sunny afternoon, pub garden, barbecue, let's have a cold beer, etc. That does come into your mind. The mind is a complex fucker, let's be honest. But two things, I think. First of all, is this is going to sound crazy, but slipping up can actually be useful. And what I mean by that is, for me, it was the reminder that I had a problem, and that I didn't want to go back to that problem. And that is useful. So when I had that period of sobriety, and then when I went back, it was about 2 months after that I stopped completely, because that reminder was such a sharp shock. And it was like, yeah, actually, I'm glad I didn't get it right the first time, because it took the second time for me to realize, this just can't go on. This is the right way, and it's what I want. And I became, that desire became more important than anything else in my life. So that's important. And and the last thing I think really just on top of that is, you will have good days and you will have bad days. Mark and I, we still have bad days. Everyone has bad days. But I tell you what, those bad days are 100 times better sober than they were when I wasn't.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, no, great, Matt. As always, really, really interesting. And I really like the reframing of relapse. I think you're right. It's a good point. It sounds so sort of terminal and final, doesn't it? You relapsed, you're fucked. That's it. You're a hopeless case.
Yeah,
You didn't relapse, and I think the other point about the fact that you've slipped up is it's the sort of it's the universe reminding you that you can't. This is hard for you to control. This has got the better of you. If you're doing something you fundamentally at your core don't want to do, then it's kind of got a grip on you. And I think just that final point about the temptation, your example of it's a sunny afternoon, barbecue, go down the pub. Oh, won't that be fun? I go back to my point, which is it'll be fun for about 20 minutes or half an
yeah,
hour. That's what you're talking. That's what you're really talking about, and then it won't be anymore. And then you're into dangerous territory. And if you're me, you're going to carry on drinking until there's no more drink left, or there's no more day or night left, and you're then into the personal hell that you're going to have to endure of the circumstances. So yeah, really good points. I'm not sure I've got an awful lot more to say on it. I mean, I think it's one of these topics that is just an ongoing discussion, really, because you learn more all the time. I don't think there's really one single do this and you can manage your relapses. I think it's an ongoing journey, but yeah, I haven't really got an awful lot more to say on it. I don't know about you, Matt, but
no, no. Just I just think don't beat yourself up about it too much. Any day when you have a problem with drink, any day without drink is a success. It's a hit. It's brilliant. And I just two people who I sort of helped last year. They three people actually all contacted me after Christmas saying they'd gone through their first Christmas without drinking and just what an incredible time it was, what a great time it was. And just you've got to focus on the positives. Like if you slip up, if you go out and for one reason or another you end up getting drunk, and the next day you are at the bottom of your, a rock bottom again almost because you feel so guilty, ashamed, you've done something terrible, whatever. Look, you can go again. You can do it again. No one achieves great things the first time round. I don't know why I use this example, but I do. I remember seeing Lando Norris. He's a Formula One driver. I saw him in Spa about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was. And he had a massive crash in practice. And then, look, last year he became world champion. So, things don't always go your way the first time, but stick at it. Keep going. Remind yourself, like you said, Mark, it's so important to remind yourself of why you're doing this. And I know anybody can achieve great things out there. And as you said, you feel like a superhero where you started with that point around it is powerful when you can turn down a drink, when you go to a restaurant and go, I don't drink. And when someone asks you why you don't drink and you just say, I don't drink. And that is a powerful feeling, and it sends a message. And I think in this day and age, it's a really powerful message.
yeah, brilliant. Final thing just on me, I liked what you said last week as well. And I think this is something maybe just to close on. I thought it was a good point is that, developing a problem, a challenge with alcohol is not your fault.
No,
You cannot be blamed for that because it's a highly, highly, highly addictive, unpredictable substance in terms of how it will interact with you individually and your brain. And like you said, Matt, society and culture and everything else just almost forces you down a cul-de-sac. You're not ever going to be able to avoid it. But what you can do is you can try and do something about it. You can't perhaps stop that that problem evolving, but you can do something about it, and that's listening to these podcasts. It's reminding yourself of all the amazing, incredible things. It's a superpower. Being sober is a superpower. No
It
doubt
is.
about it. It just really is. Nothing gets in the way. Don't want to repeat ourselves, but the transformative benefits are incredible. So cool. Well, look, I hope that's helped, guys. Please leave your comments. Let us know if there's anything else that's worrying you, that you're struggling with. You feel like it's a topic you'd like us to cover. Let us know. But unless there is anything, otherwise, I think we'll leave it there until the next time. As I always say, never quit quitting. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him. Till the next time. Cheers. Bye for now.
Bye.